The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Easy Money New England.
Oh, can somebody help us here?
We can, because we are real estate and mortgage professionals. There you go.
It says come in and browse.
That's right. Come on in, listen up and learn.
How long do you intend to browse?
In a short period of time, our panel will teach you some tricks that might make your house buying easier.
You don't ask her how long she intends to browse.
Might not be looking for a mortgage today, but we'll get you ready.
You don't look like browsers.
Are you looking?
No, what do browsers look like?
Yeah, maybe I'm half browse.
On his father's side.
This is Easy Money New England
Let's show the lady we're browse.
with your host, Brian D'Amico.
Hey, look at us, we're browse. One more word out of you and he gets it, all right? Come on.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in for another edition of our show, where every week we bring to you money-making opportunities or money-saving opportunities, all in the areas of real estate. And today on our show, we have Franklin Cruz, who's also known as a real estate drill sergeant, a testament to his no-nonsense approach and his ambitious personality. Franklin is currently the founder and the CEO of True Investors, a real estate investing master training and development company for real estate investors nationwide. He is also co-owner of Bentley Private Fund, a real estate investment firm, and also Grow 11 Consulting. His recent accomplishments include serving a 4-year senior management post with Clever Investor, a nationally known real estate investing education company, where he acted as director of mentorship, creating, staffing, and supervising the firm's fulfillment department from the ground up. He also managed the teams responsible for over 1,500 students programs. Mr. Cruz is an author of multiple books, including a recently completed children's book on early investing. Very interesting. He's a proud United States Army veteran, husband, father, and community leader. He is committed to transforming the lives of others all over the world, driven by professionalism, integrity, tenacity, and a relentless determination. Franklin has gone from the trenches of serving in the U.S. Army to the top of the real estate investing game. And he started this all about 17 years ago, 17 plus years. And Mr. Cruz resides in Florida with his family and attributes his success to his personal commitment to God, family, and then business. His personal motto is, "No excuses, make it happen," are the words that drive him to success every day. And Franklin, I want to welcome you to our show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
It's a great opening, and you know, we got a lot in common. So I started a mortgage business about 17 years ago, and it seems like we started probably right around the same time when it comes to our business.
Yep. We both started when it was all good, and then if you made it past 2007 and 8, then you know how it feels to have a dip.
Yeah, I tell everybody, they say, "How long have you been in business?" I said, "Well, 17 years, but really 7 years because I had to start over again."
It's funny. I think I've started over quite a few times, but to me, the definition of an entrepreneur is to make enough money to pay for his or her own mistakes.
Yes.
So that's the name of the game.
Yeah, no, this is great. I'm looking forward to getting into this. And, real estate drill sergeant, talk about how you got that name. I mean, that really sounds, let's face it, thank you again for serving our country. And having that commitment and passion and just boom, 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 probably gave you the sergeant. Talk a little bit about how you got that nickname.
Yeah, it was funny because I kind of have a no-nonsense way of not only just doing business, but kind of life in a sense of no excuses. When I was in the military, there's an old saying that whenever you start having excuses, the drill sergeant, and if your audience could see this, I'm putting up, they would say, stop crying or stop whining, and they would do this. Can you hear it play? And they would do like this with their finger. And what it was is they would always say, yeah, the excuse is the smallest violin in the world. Yeah. And so I started really thinking, I was like, you know what, if you could push people, and a drill sergeant in my life was the only one that I've ever had truly push me to the point that I honestly wanted to quit the military when I first got in. When I first got in, I was like, man, I thought I was in shape. I thought I could handle it. But, man, it was intense. And that drill sergeant Douglas, and other drill sergeants, they pushed me. And I was like, man, who is that? And when I started getting into business, I was like, nobody's like that anymore. Nobody really cares authentically with integrity and said, dude, you got this. I could push you. Come on, man, you got this. Go for it. And I started just doing that with my team, my staff, people around me, even friends of mine. When I wake up every morning at 4:15 in the morning, I'll text my buddies. I was like, dude, you got this, man. This is going to be the greatest day, dude. And because I believe iron sharpens iron. And so a friend of mine said, dude, you're like a drill sergeant. And I was like, okay. And he's like, dude, you're the real estate drill sergeant. And that just stuck for, it's been probably over 15 years. And my buddy Andrew Mazzaro is actually the one that gave me that nickname. And I was like, when you're in the military, if you were never a drill sergeant, you're not allowed to say, hey, drill sergeant. Because I was never a drill sergeant. I was an Army recruiter. I was a general's aide. I did serve in the war. But the honor is given to those drill sergeants who were really drill sergeants. And it's funny because in my movie theater room behind me, I have a drill sergeant hat that a friend of mine gave me that was a drill sergeant. And it's really one of those things. It's one of those nicknames that's never left. And it's kind of the mentality. And I do walk around with the real smallest violin in the world. And I show people that all the time. I was like, look, when you got an excuse, just look at the smallest violin in the world.
There it is.
Like, stop it.
I need to get a box of those.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch. I mail them out all the time.
Well, I mean, you said something that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, most people, we like to say, the name of our show is Easy Money New England, but we like to say there's no such thing as easy money. So going back to waking up at 4:15, walk us through your day. What makes you so successful? Because in my mind, it's always about commitment, and then again, commitment. And, if you kind of walk us through what you do and how you do what you do to be so successful, it'd be great.
Yeah. I would say, and I'll be straight with you, man. At the end of the day, I know, and I know you do too, you have friends of yours that are uber successful more than I am. And I look at them and I'm like, you have to be, there's 3 levels of friends. And the first thing is, the very first thing that I look at to be successful is not only that you have to be committed, that you have to have discipline. And you have to have discipline in a sense of what time are you waking up in the morning? So I started off in the day, like when I was in the military, I always woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That was our standard day. But I said, you know what? First of all, I have 2 kids. I have a wife. And if anybody's listening to this, when you have 2 kids and a wife, they come first. So yes. When is your time? When is your time? And if you're a man listening to this, I'm a man, so I could talk as a man, right? So I apologize to all the women that are listening to this. But as a man, you have an obligation to be successful, period. That's your obligation. And so to do that, I said, if I'm going to still make all the baseball games, all the wrestling tournaments for my oldest, if I'm still going to be that husband that has date night, if I'm still going to be a stand for all my students in our community, what time does that guy wake up in the morning? So I took myself out of my own and I said, what time does he wake up? And I literally would write it out. And I always carry a notebook with me. I said, that guy wakes up at 4:15 in the morning. That guy works out every morning. That guy, every single day, he has a plan. Every single day, his team is very efficient. If he wants to, what does he want to do in the world? And said he runs his whole business through his phone. So I started mapping out, who do I want to become? And that's actually what I started striving towards. And then, I said, that guy has an amazing team that are action takers and we're leaving a huge impact. The other thing is that guy is singular focused. That's the other thing what happens with business owners. There is a two-edged sword. It's a great thing to be an entrepreneur, and to be totally honest with you, it's a horrible thing to be an entrepreneur. You know why? Because we see opportunity everywhere.
That is
we
the
literally
issue.
could walk down the street and be like, I could run this landscaping business better than this guy, right? Or
absolutely right.
I could do this, or I could do this, or, you got headphones on. I could, you know what, these headphones, I bet you I could get them cheaper, start an Amazon store, sell it on Shopify, and make a profit. Am I lying?
No, you're 100% accurate. That's my thing. I always think I just dabble in this, dabble in that. And you got to control yourself.
Yeah. And I learned the hard way, man. And to me, again, I was very blessed enough to be in the real estate arena, even part-time while I was still in the military. And what I learned is that, who is that guy? What does he do? So that's exactly who I started becoming. So I wake up every morning between 4:15. I have my personal time. I do whatever I believe in. God bless you. I believe in God and Jesus Christ, and I read the Bible. If you read something else, whatever, I don't judge. But you got to have that personal time. Then after that, I work out every single morning because as you get older, it's not the same anymore. I don't care what you say or what you take. Okay.
Right.
And then after that, I have a standard. I make breakfast for my family every single morning, Monday through Sunday. That's my thing for my family. Pancakes on the weekends, and anything else that they want during the week. And then after that, then I get with my team, and then we start the day. And what I did create with my wife is Mondays and Tuesdays are usually long days for me, but the rest of the week are not. So that's kind of a typical week, and we're always seeing singular focused. That's the one thing. And even my team, sometimes they let me know, hey, that's not a part of our focus this quarter. We got to focus on this. And I've got my own philosophies when it deals with singular focus. A great book called, was it The One Thing? Highly recommend it. Anybody read that? Because when you start getting that singular focus, I truly believe anybody can be super successful if you say singular focus. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm not sure
for sure. So when you talk about singular focus, what, you must have that tattooed on the wall, at the computer screen. What is your singular focus when you get up? I think that would help a lot of people. Plus, you're making a lot of people look bad right now because you make breakfast for your family, you're doing pancakes on the weekends. I mean, I don't know if that's the norm, but
that's my thing. Everybody's got their own thing, man. It may be massaging your wife's feet. It may be and again, look, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Okay. So this is years in the making. This is something that it's taken a long time to finally get to that place. And I'm still getting better every single day. And so probably the best analogy I can give you on the singular focus is, and I know nobody could see this, but if they take out, let's say they take a blank sheet of paper, right? Everybody always talks about multiple streams of income, right? You heard that saying before, hey, I got to have multiple streams of income.
Yes,
right?
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. So, and I am too. So imagine the multiple streams. See, every single stream comes from what? A river. Right.
Yes.
So every stream comes from a river. So if you've got all these multiple streams of income, right? So if I'm drawing a river, this is I apologize, I did not take.
Let's call it the Nile. Let's call it the Nile River. It's a big river.
Yeah. So imagine you got this big old river, right? And you have your multiple streams of income. Now here's the catch, and I can't take credit for creating. I can take credit for this, but I can't take credit for the way I'm going to lay this out. Somebody else told me this.
Right.
And so what they said is, look, you got all these multiple streams, but what's your main river? What's the river that's flowing? Because what happens is you have too many streams, you're going to suck away your river. And then what happens is when the river dries up, just guess what? Your multiple streams dry up.
Your river becomes a pond, a small pond.
Exactly. So what I always try to tell people, especially in the very beginning, is what's your river? Focus on the river. Focus that this river is automated. Focus that this is so optimized that you don't always have to look at your river all the time. Like it's flowing. You're good. Now you're allowed to play and get one more stream of income. And then that needs to be flowing.
Let me ask you a question, though. This river, right, would that be basically the industry you're in? So, for example, that river, if that river was called real estate is very broad. There's a lot of different ways to make money in real estate. But if that river is categorized as real estate, as long as it falls within that industry, is that still singular focus?
No, I would say there's different categories of it. So let's say that if to truly learn something, you got to hone all in, right? So if you really want to get good at video editing, it's not like, hey, let me start learning the cameras, video editing, and lighting and everything. No, you got to do one thing at a time. Let me hone in on lighting. Let me figure out how to do this damn lighting thing, right? Yeah. And then once you got it dialed in, you go to the next. So real estate's the same way. I always tell our students whenever they come on board our community, if you've got a job, that's your river. So don't screw that thing up. You're going to do this part-time like I did when I was in the military. I was doing real estate part-time, right? And I would make it work. But the very first thing is, let's dial in the foundation of your business, right? So after you got a foundation of your business, probably the first thing could be, if you feel comfortable wholesaling, then you could go the wholesaling route. Right. If you feel comfortable rehabbing, then we go the rehabbing route. But we're going to dial that in until you start making income in it. Because then when you start making income, you feel good about yourself. You're like, dang, I got this thing going. But if you got too many things going on, then what happens is, and none of them work because you didn't pay attention to really all of them and focus all your attention. That's just like if you got 5 kids, but you're spending all your time with that oldest one, everybody else is going to feel left out.
That's right.
Right. So don't get pissed off when they get older and they don't invite you to your graduation. Right. It's like, it's just like, come on now.
Well, the idea of all these different streams is it's almost like, you spinning pizzas. You spin it over here or plates, and then you spin it over here, and you're always trying to get them all going. Before you know it, you're going to kind of burn out. So I think it's very important.
I'm talking from experience, man. I've screwed it up more times than none. I know the schedule looks good now. I know I look polished now, but underneath the seat, or underneath this shirt, there's a ton of scars. So I'm not, trust me.
Same here. So yeah, I want to give. I mean, it feels like I'm talking to one of my friends, Will Vaccarano. He actually just, he posts on social media at 4:00, 4:15. He's up every morning, and he's really, he joined a mastermind group, and it seems like he's really following. Is there a system that you follow? Is it like a mastermind type of group, or is there any group behind this?
Well, I believe that you got to have your self-discipline first. That's the very first thing, because you can have accountability, but then what happens is what I've found is some people use that as a crutch. Oh, well, my guy didn't wake me up this morning.
Yeah.
Oh, my alarm didn't wake me up this morning. Consider all that's an excuse. Nobody cares about your excuses.
Get out the violin.
At all. Yeah, I was like, dude, here's the violin. Start playing by yourself. I'm like, I don't, your commitment. First of all, I'm adopted, right? So what happened is my birth name is not Franklin Cruz, it's Franklin Padilla. Okay. So my mom passed away when I was 10 years old, and then I got adopted to the Cruz family. Now, thank God, because I didn't, when I was in the military, now I don't have to be in the back of the line anymore. I was in the front line, Cruz, right? So it was amazing. So what I discovered, though, is you have to be self-disciplined, because at the end of the day, me being adopted, I was always in that fear of like, man, if I do something wrong, I may not be with this family.
Right.
If so I can't have any excuses. Franklin, why didn't you wake up and go to school? I can't blame it on the alarm. Why didn't you do your schoolwork? Well, my teacher didn't give it to me, or I lost it. Well, you can't blame that either. Well, frankly, if you like those shoes, why don't you go buy it? Well, why do you still have old shoes? Well, I got to create it.
Right.
See, and if anybody's listening to this, write this down, which is you have to create your income level. You have to create who you're going to be. And it starts with you. It's not, nobody. Don't get me wrong. If you can afford it, to get a mentor, somebody else, those people in your life, they're to look at your blind spots, because we all have blind spots. It's like you could drive in your car and you think you're going to turn left, and you're looking through, I got 6 mirrors. I got the little ones because I got a 16-year-old driver. So I got the little mirrors. I got the big mirrors. I got the extended mirrors. And then we may turn, and then he still didn't see the car because he had a blind spot.
Right.
So, and it's the same thing in business. We have coaches and mentors and people around us, colleagues, masterminds. The only reason why they're there, and you got to look at it like the only reason why they're there is to see my blind spots. What am I missing? Right. What am I not seeing? You're uber successful. Hey, Franklin, dude, I've already been there. This is what you do in a podcast or a TV show or a radio show. Dude, I've already been there. Great. That's my blind spot. Dude, I have no clue. You got me on this one, man.
Great. That's great information. So let's talk about a little bit about, we're going through the commitment and the discipline. I mean, let's face it. If you're not disciplined, that's the magic ingredient, right? It's perseverance and discipline is really the secret here. And I think that, if we can talk about your singular focus, like how have you been able to, in the last 17 years, I know that the River and singular focus, what's considered your singular focus? Do you buy and hold? Do you do flips? Do you do wholesaling? Like what tends to be your best strategy?
The best strategy, I guess I've been doing it for so long. So I'm connected with a group that we have a little bit over 900 properties, right? On the property management side, buy and hold strategy, and a lot of creative financing. I'll be straight with you. My pure passion is to help other investors find their passion in the real estate investing game. I discovered that probably about 4 years ago. Like to me, real estate, there comes a point that you get mastery that it just is easy. Like it's not even
it just kind of snaps. It takes a long time, but when that kind of snaps into place, you're like, all right, I got this.
Yeah, dude, it's almost like you're riding a bicycle, right? And then, at first you're falling all the damn time, and then out of nowhere you have instant balance. And then it's just like you could not ride a bicycle for 20 years, you jump back on it, you're like, you got balance again, right? So it's like it comes to that. So I'm not trying to brag, it's just I've screwed up enough times that I'm like, I've got that mastery now in that. So my pure passion in life is to mentor and assist other people to get where they never thought that they can get in the real estate game. And that to me is like, I remember the first time a student had a breakthrough, because you can't count closings when you're first starting out in real estate. If you're only looking for that closing, if I don't get a closing, I'm not successful, dude, you already lost. You already lost. You have to look at small wins and celebrate those small wins, just like in business, no different.
And these are people that want to get into the real estate market, or is it more universal?
Yeah, specifically in the real estate investing industry. Okay. So some of them may want to do a buy and hold, some of them may want to wholesale, some of them may want to start doing rehabs. But there's a core foundation. What I found is in all businesses. I used to be a CEO for a plumbing company, and I took that position just because I was bored and I wanted to see, can my philosophies in business work in a plumbing company? I have no idea about plumbing at all, zero. So this was like a 6-month experiment, and they're a $3 million company called True Plumbers, just FYI. Yeah. And so they said, hey, Franklin, dude, we need your help. You're team building. You built this team over here. Can you do it over here? And I was like, dude, honestly, I've never ran a plumbing company, but the only way I would do it is I got to have a piece of your company. If not, it's not even worth my time. Long story short, they did that. And in 6 months, I doubled their profit margin from 7% to 15%. And then I took their company from $3 million of sales to $6 million in sales. And then they made the Inc. 5000 list as well, all within 6 months. Wow. And what I discovered with that is there's core principles in all businesses. Yes. And nobody's teaching the core principles. And so that's kind of what we bring to the table.
So if I'm driving around, or maybe on the Stairmaster, listen to this right now. And I mean, it sounds interesting to me. If someone wanted to look you up, how would they find you?
Yeah, they can go to trueinvestors.com or franklincruz.com, or find me on social media. I'm pretty active on social media, but probably the best place, and we've got a lot of just education, is probably trueinvestors.com would be the best place.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure, because we want to make sure everyone got that information. But when you talk about the true core, we were just talking about true core
principles.
Yes. What do you believe those core principles are?
What it deals with, if you're dealing with like the foundation of business, or you're dealing with core principles of a person.
I would say, what made you go from $3 million to $6 million in that plumbing company? What were the core principles used to double the business within 6 months? I mean, that's interesting to me.
Right here. The very first thing in this philosophy, if anybody writes this down, like literally, if you actually do this, you can start finding what I call the leaky buckets in the business. So the very first thing I did is I'm going in there as an outside consultant and an outside CEO, meaning I have zero emotion to anybody on the team.
Right.
So it's just flat out, here's what you've been doing and here's what you've not been doing, what's been your commitments and what hasn't been your commitments. So the very first thing in any business is, what's the core foundation? How are you making money, and what are all the systems that you're actually utilizing? So what I call is the first core principle is foundation. You got to find out all the foundational items. That's the very first thing. Because there's the stages that you're going to be in is you got to analyze that foundation. Yeah. So now after I analyze what's everybody doing, do you have roles and responsibilities? What's the KPIs of your departments? How's that working? Who's the leadership? Where's your org chart? Oh, you don't have an org chart? That would probably help if we had one. That's an organizational chart, if you guys don't know, or a chain of command in the military.
Yeah, and KPIs are measurements of key indicators so you can see what's going on within your business.
Exactly. And then each department has KPIs.
Yep.
Right? So then what are those key performance indicators? So when I have the core foundation, now immediately you go into, now we need to optimize. How can we optimize? So now I'm analyzing the foundation. Now you got to optimize. So that's the other principle. So now I got to optimize it. How can we get more efficient at what we're doing with not spending as much, right? With what we have. And I never did this. I never cut anybody's salary. Matter of fact, I increased everybody with bonuses and incentives to really raise production.
Yep.
But what I did do is I dialed in, and one key thing a lot of people do is you have to use this river method even in marketing. A lot of businesses, if you're doing over $1 million a year, one thing that happens is you get to what I call vertical in marketing, and you're not truly seeing how is my clients really coming in? What's the 80-20? Right when we did that, literally we shaved off $350,000 a year just on the marketing. And so that little bit gave us some more incentives and more optimization within the system. And then what I call the last principle is relaunch, maximize. You got to relaunch everything and see what's working. And then you go in this cycle again, analyze, optimize, maximize.
Gotcha. Yeah, that seems very interesting. I read a book, a little echo there, but I read a book recently called Traction, and it's basically teaching you just that, but it's more on the business side of things with the org board, and make sure it's not just an organizational board, but it's a role responsibility chat, and it makes a lot of sense if you want to take a look at that. But yeah, so let's keep going. So this is very interesting. I mean, I could ask you 10 different questions right now, but I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot already in your lifetime, but what would you say that, I know that your passion is definitely teaching people, and we're going to send a lot of people your way because you can feel the passion, and I know that you have a lot to offer. But when it's not on the educational front or teaching people how to do it, what is it that you focused on to get to where you are today, to realize that you want to help other people get to where you got to?
What I started focusing on is there's a couple things. One is what I've learned is that if you could have two great fronts. There's this thing called balance, right? You've got to have some kind of balance. One is if I started focusing on my business and I didn't communicate or have effective communication with my family, then something was out of balance, right?
Yes.
And so what I started focusing on is I said, okay, I want to have balance in my life, but I've got to have some kind of communication, because if I'm not communicating with the family, then it starts getting all sideways. And then if your family starts dipping down, what happens is your business will slowly start dipping down as well. Yeah, it's just the way it is.
Right.
So you've got to have that even keel. So my biggest thing is I really honed in probably about 7 years ago development, and really understanding what is true effective communication. Truly, how can I master certain things in my head? Truly, how do I actually go from here to here as quickly as possible? And what do I need to do to structure it that way? So I went all in. There's so many different personal development courses anybody could take. There's Tony Robbins, there's Red Rock. I personally chose Landmark Education, and I went all in on their leadership. And then I started doing this, and I probably started this 18 years ago, was I started speaking at schools and mentoring kids.
That's great.
Because if you could speak at schools and mentor kids, trust me, you can speak anywhere. And so that's another thing that we started getting into. And so what I discovered is the more I started helping other people get where they wanted to go, that only took me close to where I wanted to go. And so that was a lot of game changers that really happened in my life, which it turned all the way back to that personal development. How can I improve? Again, what does that guy look like 20 years from now? Giving back and teaching, but also, obviously I do love business and the attributes of business as well, because what I found is like, man, if you could take that CEO and start showing him certain things, that CEO is helping 100 different families.
Right.
So you start looking at how many families are you helping? We start changing our terminology. We even change it here too. I don't want to look at the dollar amount all the time. You got business. If your KPI was, hey, how many families did we help today? How many families did we help this month?
That's a great point.
Hopefully that's making sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, even in my business, we say how many units did we do, but it really should be how many people do we get finance for first-time home buyers. I mean, that's helping the community. I like that. I like that a lot. Jonathan, our Mr. Jonathan always has a question here and there, and I figured he's writing down something over there. I don't know if
I'm trying to take notes. You're giving me a lot of good information here for our show notes.
No.
It sounds to me like the most important step when somebody wants to get started is that mapping process, to map out, and I loved how you worded it, to map out the person that you want to be. And then it sounds like your business principles for your plumbing company work for your personal life. You map it out, you find your leaky buckets, figure out what your roles and responsibilities are, and then optimize, and then you relaunch. So it sounds like it works for the Franklin Cruises of the world, as well as it would work for the plumbing companies of the world.
Yeah, I mean, to me, those are core business principles, and that's, again, that was for more of a business or a person that is you already had some kind of success. Now, if you're starting brand new, I always tell everybody this: fail as fast as you can.
Fail forward.
Period. Fail fast. Get those. Your goal is never, hey man, I got to look for the yes, I got to look for the deal. No, your goal is 9 no's. Right. I don't want you to even stop doing what you're doing until you at minimum get nine no's. Once you get that 9th no, then you know you're one step closer to that yes.
Good point.
That's very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Because then what happens is, then in your head, you're not having that sense of failure anymore. You know, and what I really got is you've got to master the mind game. You know, everybody's more than capable. Look, if you understand 2 + 2 is 4, you're already halfway there, right? Like there's a good percentage of people that mentally they can't even handle that, or physically they can't do it. But if you've got that mentality, dude, you just got to figure out, say, okay, well, how many no's? And then the other thing is, don't get distracted. That's why I always say stay singular focus. Turn off the notifications on your phone. You know, track what are you actually doing when you're doing it. You know, those little things, because you'll start seeing, if you start counting all those minutes that you're wasting on your phone or doing stupid stuff that's very unproductive, dude, you've wasted 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, you know, easily.
They don't realize how much time they spend on that stuff, because it just drains you of all what you could have did during that day. I agree with you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, matter of fact, I've got my whole team on Time Doctor, but I'm on Time Doctor too. Time Doctor is a software that is screenshots your computer, and you have to tell it what you're doing at all times, right? And so I'm even on it. So it's not like, you know, I want to make sure I'm always staying on point, because it's very easy to get distracted. You know,
that sounds very interesting. Do you have any other software tools that you use to keep focused? Time Doctor.
Yeah. So I use Time Doctor's one. There's another great one that I use a lot called Voxer, Voxer. It's a phone app. It's like a 2-way walkie-talkie. And what it allows me to do is that if anybody has a situation or whatnot, they could Voxer it in, but I don't need to answer them back right there and then. So then when I have my scheduled time to answer anything back, I could just listen to it and answer them back through that walkie-talkie app.
Oh, that's pretty. I'm going to check that out too.
Yeah, and then another great, fantastic app is called useloom.com. Useloom.com is free. And what it does is, I believe email is extremely inefficient because typing is very slow. Your mind thinks a lot faster than your hands go. And so what they do is they could do a video capture like a Camtasia or ScreenFlow, but they do it only on your email. So if you read an email, I say, hey, this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is how you do it. Look, real quick. And it screenshots your computer. And you can say, look, we need to change this headline. This needs to be like this. This needs to be like this. If you don't understand, just press rewind on the video, press done, and it emails them the video inside their own email.
You responded to me. You responded to me on Useloom, and I'm already looking to try to set it up and everything else. Is it just for Is it just for Gmail, or can you also use it for Outlook? Do you know?
I believe it's only Chrome for right now. It's in beta, so right now it's a free beta software, and they're only doing it in Chrome. I think once they start branching out, they'll go other verticals.
It's really interesting because, I mean, email is I'm getting inundated with emails. It'd be so much easier to respond on things that you need to respond on. Video. It's so much. I mean, I just looked at it before the show and I said, all right, well, blah, blah, blah. And it was, Useloom seemed pretty cool.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
You're constantly trying to find ways to optimize your output of information or streamline your output rather, so that you optimize the amount of time that you have to accomplish what you need to accomplish. I would imagine you're the type of guy that gets 3 days worth of stuff done by lunchtime.
Some people say that, I'm big into counting minutes. I don't count hours. I count minutes. So, I may work 900 minutes. But that is also consists of my long day. I have 2 long days a week. And so those long days.
That goes from 4:15 to what about when?
It could go anywhere, 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. It's just, to me, I just count the minutes, because in your head, if you're counting hours, you start in your head, start getting tired.
Yeah.
But if you start counting only minutes, now it's at 800 minutes. Sometimes your head can't calculate it that fast, which is good for me, because then I'm like, oh man, I just keep going. So in CrossFit, they always do it by minutes. That's like a CrossFit tool that I use. And so for me, it's staying on point. And then I'm a big writer. I believe in writing down your thoughts before you go to your team, because as CEOs and just leaders within an organization, it's very easy to throw a bomb at your team and then walk out the room.
Yep.
With no plan, no organization. And sometimes I still catch myself and I have to stand back and like, okay, what up? And there's another powerful tool called Teamwork. We use Teamwork a lot too, if that helps anybody.
Teamwork. What does that do?
It's a project management software. So you could literally put all the projects that you may have, and it has a good phone app as well. So you can coordinate any and all projects within there. So let's say that you're building out your Google AdWords campaign for bringing in sellers. Yep. Well, that's a project. And now who's all the team members inside this project? And then you have subtasks within the main task. Well, somebody's got to do the images. Who's doing the images? Who's doing the copy? Who's laying everything out? When are you guys going to check it? So all this is inside the project, and Teamwork organizes all that.
That's great. Good information. So if I'm a new person, I'm going to say, I'm listening to this right now. I'm like, Franklin Cruz, this guy's going somewhere. I want to figure out how I can get signed up and learn and get to where I want to be. The question that I have is, would you kind of have if someone just called you today, would you have them kind of reverse engineer what they're looking to accomplish, or would you kind of go through steps as they first come in the door to understand and what's their passion or drive and try to go with that route?
Yeah, I go. The very first thing that I always do is I put everybody through. There's this 29-minute video that I have that I put everybody through, and the main reason why is that if you can't stay through a 29-minute video, then it ain't gonna work.
Right.
That's right. So after you get through there, then there's some what I call there's questions that we answer. So when I get all that information, there's 4 main things that I always look at. And it's in a great book that we use called the SPIN method. So first, what's your current situation? Yep. What does that currently look like? And then your goal may be, hey, I want to be a real estate investor, or hey, I want to make more money in my business, whatever that looks like. Okay, what's the problem that's been holding you back? Right? And then right after that, so if this problem continues happening, what's your end goal? What's going to happen to you if this problem keeps happening? And then the last thing is need payoff, which is saying, okay, so if we can even get 10% closer to the goal that you want to hit, is this the direction you want to go, or are you satisfied where you're at? And then there's 3 questions I always ask. Are you going to be coachable? If you're not, I 100% do not want you a part of the team. Like, it's not going to work. The other thing is, are you willing to have no excuses at all? If you're going to give me excuses, I can tell you right now, it won't work either. And the last thing, are you willing to give it all you got? And if it's a no on any of those questions, I'm like, all right, man, good luck. I wish you the best, but it's not going to work here.
Gotcha. So the drill sergeant really does hold true. The real estate drill sergeant.
Love it.
I look at it like we don't, and I guess because of my upbringing, you're not promised tomorrow. When my mom passed at 10 years old, I never met my biological father at that time until I was 17. It's like, dude, either you're going to do it or not, but don't waste my time. If you're going to do it, I'm here for you, dude. I'll be your number one cheerleader. We will make sure that it happens, but you got to be committed. If you're not, it's all good. It's just, I'm not the one. I'm not the one to hold your hand and play games with you. I want those people that are dead serious about moving forward.
Would you say that, like, say a business owner comes to you and says, I need to be this amount of business coming into the internet, or, more like internet marketing.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people that really know how to market well on the internet, or do you have resources that you put them in touch with, or do you kind of just tell them the basics of what they're looking for?
I think it all matters. It all matters the scenario, and it all matters the budget. Because the first thing is always you got to figure out what's your marketing budget. Dude, I have no marketing budget. All right, well, and you need to do it super old school. You need to get on there, Facebook Live, start building your audience, start getting some kind of flow of income going until you got a budget. If they have a bigger budget, I've got friends that I could always put them in contact with that I already know for a fact who they are, they're trustworthy, have integrity, and will make sure that they can scale in that way. If they don't really have a budget, everything we do, I have everybody in here is in-house. There's not one thing we really sub out per se for our entire team. So we have an in-house marketing team, in-house videographer, graphic designers, copywriters, everything.
Wow.
But I'll make sure that it all matters where do they want to go? And you have to stay singular focused. I always ask them, what's the first thing that's working for you? Well, Facebook is cool. Well, let me see all that. Let's see how can we optimize what's already working for you, and then I could possibly point them in a certain direction. But what I always found is, where I come into play is a lot of times is keeping them accountable that they actually do what they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do it, because that's always a big thing too.
People need it. They need accountability. And then the other question is, the real estate market. So you're in Tampa, right outside the outskirts of Tampa, Orlando area. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people now that are starting to invest, because Massachusetts might be a little frothy, or a little, can't really make a lot of money right now in some certain areas. People are going over state lines and actually investing in, real estate in Memphis or Tampa or Orlando. What can you say? Do you have any people that, look at the United States and say, look, these are the good areas to invest in. As long as I got a good property manager, I'm okay, and can still benefit with all the luxuries of investing in real estate, but don't have to manage the day-to-day.
Yeah. So your question is, what do I say to those people, like where to invest or where to go?
Yeah.
Or?
I mean, I would say my question really is, do you have anybody that invests outside of their market area where, say I live in Boston, it's just, it's tough to make a profit. If I want to invest in Memphis or Tampa, do you have any people that you coach that actually do this and invest in different markets of the U.S.?
Yeah, actually I do. I have quite a few. And the first thing I always try to do is I always try to get what's the marketing budget first. And then what I always like doing is I like them linking up with another leader within our program, because then I could find somebody in that market that we're going to start getting their, I've got one of our students in California, but he's actually invested, and he teamed up with one of our leaders in Atlanta.
Gotcha.
Way better market. So his California dollars go a lot longer in Georgia than it would ever in California or and again, I love Boston, the area, but man, your taxes are crazy over there. So it's like, there's in New Jersey's even nuts,
Right.
And I always tell people, if you look at a map and you want to know where's the profitable areas to go, and this sucks to say, this is the truth. And the only reason why I say this is because I've invested in 39 different states, so I kind of saw the pattern. The pattern is wherever there's a Democratic state, usually that's higher taxes. Wherever there's a Republican state, that's usually lower taxes. So you want to go where there's lower taxes. Now, again, I'm not judging whoever your political is, but if you just look at a map, all the Democratic states usually have higher tax brackets or taxes, property taxes. All the Republican ones are just lower. So that's the first thing we do. Where's the lower taxes? Where can I get more bang for my buck at? And then we hone in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. And the other question I have is like, for example, that person in California, is he investing in more of a syndication where there's people investing all within a group of people buying buildings, or is it his own dollar?
It's his own dollar. So what he's doing is he is the way we link them together is that I forget the exact dollar amount. So he's paying for all the marketing. He's taking in the seller calls. And then the other individual in Georgia is actually the one going down to the property, making sure that it gets rehabbed, making sure everything gets completed, make sure that the contract's getting signed. So they teamed up that way. So whenever they sell a property for profit, he gets back his marketing dollars first, and then it's a 50-50 on the deal.
Oh, okay. So that would be more for the flip and hold. I mean, not flip, flip properties, right? So
yes.
So
now we do have syndications as well. So we've got like the group that I'm a part of, the almost 900 units that we have specifically in Atlanta and Tampa. That's totally different. That is, that's a PPMM. So that's they're putting in their money inside the fund, and then we go out and we purchase the properties, and they get their rate of return. That was what was promised to them. Now,
if that person in California wanted to buy within Atlanta, would that strategy still hold true for buy and hold? You kind of hook them up with a property manager, get them going down because you have a team lead out in that area.
Yeah.
And you could maybe he doesn't want to sell the property. Maybe it's just cash flow.
Yeah, Georgia would probably be the easiest place that I would recommend people because we already have an entire team down there. If they're trying to go to another area, I'm always trying to, I've been in the industry like you have for a long time. So you start calling your friends and seeing who's trustworthy in that area and then connect them.
It's great. No, this is great information. I mean, this is the problem, right? So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, I got to jump on this right after the show. I'm going to call.
But stay singularly focused.
Stay singularly focused, right? So that's the tough part, right? We just did a show 2 weeks ago on buying raw land, and I was like, I'm going to jump on that too. But there's only so much you can do, and you don't have enough time. So it's singular focus.
Yeah.
I learned a lot on the show myself.
Well, good. Hopefully, I guess through my trials and tribulations, my goal is that everybody learns something from it.
So, Mr. Jonathan, in recap, do you have any other questions? Because Mr. Jonathan just wants to buy a double wide, and he's going to be.
I'm a minimalist.
He's a minimalist.
Franklin, I want to live in a double wide.
We were looking at a double wide the other day in Lakeland area, and I asked the lady because she just wanted to sell it for like $5,000. And I said, well, do you own the land? She doesn't own the land. So if you ever want to buy a mobile home, write this down because this will help you. If the person doesn't own the land, it's probably not going to be a deal because you have to pay land fees. And so those land fees may be $400 or $500 just for that.
Just for the land.
Yeah, just for and you're renting just that little space. So it's really you're renting that little space plus your double wide. So if you're ever going to invest or purchase a double wide, make sure that you're purchasing the land, like you own the land and the double wide. Because if not, you're just always going to run into that.
So I should buy some raw land first.
Raw land.
And then put a couple double wides on it and rent my land to the other guy that owns the double wide. I'm all over this.
Now, real quick, I'm gonna help you out. Don't buy raw land because now remember you got to put a septic tank on it. So I don't want you to spend money. Buy one with already a mobile home that's a piece of crap mobile home that already has a septic tank on it. You can dump that mobile home, get a cheaper used mobile home, and then put it in that spot. That's what you want. You'll save a lot more money that way.
See, all my minimalist followers that listen to the show, they're all over this. They're all writing it down like I just did. Genius.
Good.
You want a two-story, but he wants a two-story mobile home. You want a two-story mobile home.
Remember that if you ever purchase a new property or if you build new, remember you have impact fees. But if you buy a crap like the worst property ever, and they do this a lot in California. A buddy of mine, Coco, does this. He buys these crappy properties, but in like the Hollywood Hills. And so for him not to pay impact fees, he leaves one wall up. So as long as you leave one wall, it's considered a rehab.
Wow.
And so you don't have to pay impact fees. And so that's how you get over that.
Brilliant.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
California's like their own world over there.
That they are.
Yeah, they're 100%. 100%. Definitely. I would never personally invest in there. I don't even know why people live there because over 51% of your income, if you make over six figures, is gone.
Yeah.
So it's totally ridiculous.
So you talk about Massachusetts. The only thing worse than Massachusetts is probably California.
Yeah.
And New York, probably.
And nowadays, I always look at it like you can make income from wherever. And the ultimate goal is, can you do your business from your phone? If you already have a business, how can I do my business from my phone? How can I truly optimize it that I don't always have to I have a business, but I'm not working in the business all the time. And that's the ultimate goal. I mean, for everybody.
Well, this is a fascinating show. We're going to kind of look up your software tools too, because you got me thinking like crazy today. And I just want to thank you for being on our show, Franklin.
Oh, no problem at all, man. It was an honor, man. I appreciate it. Hopefully your audience got something out of this.
Yeah, and to all our listeners out there, I mean, Franklin Cruz, remember the name. I feel like he's going to be a household name one day. So remember, we had him on our show first. And Franklin, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm sure we'll talk to each other in the near future.
Perfect.
And like we like to say, Jonathan,
There is no such thing
as easy money. Thank you.
It's a new day, it's a new way. Call 877 New Fed 1. It's a new way.
Hi folks, it's Brian D'Amico, owner of New Fed Mortgage, and I'm really excited to introduce Fast Track Mortgage, our new online system that gets you approved in less than 15 minutes. Whether it's a refinance or a new purchase, just go to newfed.com anytime, day or night, and click on the Fast Track Mortgage button. Fill out the form, and within 15 minutes, we'll approve your loan at the lowest rate possible. Don't waste time dealing with big banks. We're local and here to help you close your loan fast. Just go to newfed.com 24/7 and get approved in less than 15 minutes. Fast Track from New Fed Mortgage. Now that's a new way to get the loan you need fast.
877 New Fed 1.
Subject to credit approval, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 1881. Policy website for details.
877 New Fed 1.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.